All right, and we are back. NHL 20 franchise mode, Calgary Flames. This is episode 4. Yes, welcome back to our franchise mode here on EA Sports NHL 20 with the Calgary Flames, who sit first place in the Western Conference with 82 points. Second place in the NHL. I believe the Boston Bruins sit above us there. 88 points for the Boston Bruins. They lead the NHL right now. And as you can see here, the Calgary Flames sitting at 82 points through 63 games. So yes, welcome to our franchise mode. We are at the trade deadline. It is time for our first trade deadline here in our franchise mode with the Calgary Flames in season number 1. As mentioned, obviously we are a contending team, second place in the NHL. We are looking to build on a very strong playoff run here for the Calgary Flames, coming off what was a very disappointing playoffs last year, in which the Flames, of course, finished first in the West and second in the NHL, just like we are sitting now, and then, of course, got knocked out in 5 games to the Colorado Avalanche. So we're trying to turn things around this time around and hopefully win the Stanley Cup in the next couple years here, and obviously a very strong and deep playoff run here, and this 2019-2020 season is going to be huge for the Calgary Flames. So yes, let's get underway here with what is going to be a very important episode. It is episode number 4, but it's going to be a big one because this is the trade deadline. This is where we are going to add a piece that could potentially help us put us over the top and help us in the playoffs. So a couple things to get to here before we get to the deadline. First of all, we are simmed up to the 23rd of the month of February here. Trade deadline is on the 25th, but we're going to do all of our trades now before the deadline. I just like to do it before the deadline comes. Plus, we got some players out here that we might want to look at. So first things first is let's just really quickly look at where we sit through 63 games quickly in terms of points. Just want to look here quickly. Sean Monahan leading us there, 66 points, 14 goals. Oh, we talked about this in the last episode. I think the last couple episodes, how Johnny Gaudreau and Sean Monahan have kind of reversed roles here. Monahan leading us with 52 assists, which would usually be Johnny Gaudreau's role, and Gaudreau's leading us with 37 goals, which would usually be what Monahan is doing on that top line. Nevertheless, it doesn't matter. These guys are reversing roles for some reason, even though Gaudreau's clearly a playmaker and Monahan's clearly a shooter, but for some reason, they are reversing roles. And look at the shooting percentage here. 17.1% for Johnny Gaudreau and 9.6 for Sean Monahan. So that's really reversed. I'm not sure why it's like that, but it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, these two are getting the job done for Calgary, and that's all we care about, are two players that are over 60 points so far through 63 games. So each player obviously a point a game. Gaudreau just over. Michael Backlund, you can see a big drop off here, 49 points there. Giordano has stepped it up a little bit. He leads us, of course, winning the Norris last year. We knew he wasn't going to get to his 72, 73 points that he had last season. But you know what? If he can still contribute what he's doing right now, 44 points through 58 games, that's not bad. Elias Lindholm has had a quiet year compared to last year. I think he hit, 77 or something up there. I can't even remember. Let's just quickly look. Lindholm hit 78 points last year. So, of course, he's not going to get there either. And then, of course, the biggest one, Matthew Tkachuk as well, who also hit the 70-point plateau, I think, last year. I want to go Matthew Tkachuk here, and just taking a quick look here. 77 points. That was the one I was thinking of. 34 goals, 77 points last year for Tkachuk. He also having a drop-off year. So these three players obviously dropping off. We knew not to expect the same out of Tkachuk, Lindholm, Giordano, Gaudreau, Monahan. They all had career years last year, but we were hoping we wouldn't see this much of a drop-off, but it is what it is. The biggest thing is we want to get Tkachuk going. He's picked it up actually quite a bit since the last episode. In episode 3, he picked it up quite a bit. I think going into episode 3, he only had, I would have to go back and look at it, but he only had a few goals and not a lot of points. He's actually picked it up. You can see, especially in the goal department, he's now close to the 20-goal plateau, is 4th on our team in that department, or is he 3rd? He is 3rd. He's ahead of Sean Monahan. So yes, he is 3rd on that list there in terms of goals. So he was pretty low down there in our goal category going into episode 3. He has picked it up in episode 3, and now he's on a hot streak. So that's good to see. So just want to quickly look at that. But the biggest thing here I want to look at here is the goaltending. So we talked about it the last episode, how it was a bit shaky in the months of November and December after a really good start for us in October. But you can see that David Rittich and Cam Talbot have really come into their own now that we are in the month of February, close to the month of March. David Riddick, who's clearly our starter, has already played 50 games. 29, 13, and 5 is his record. That's pretty damn good. And a 9.20 save percentage with a 2.34 goals against. Playing really well. I don't know why I was worried about David Riddick. He did, like I said, have a bad stretch there in December, but he's really picked it up. He had a really good, solid last couple of months for us, and like I said, already has played 50 games. Talbot's come in almost 20 games so far this season, and he has a 10-7-1 record. So maybe not as good as Riddick's record, but still not too bad, operating at 9.08 save percentage. Excuse me. That's not too bad for a backup. That's probably all we can ask for Cam Talbot. I'm pretty comfortable with this duel going into the playoffs, to be honest. I talked about it. We were maybe going to look at different options out here now that it is trade deadline. I talked about it even since episode 1 that we possibly could go and acquire a goalie as early as now as the trade deadline. I think we're going to pass on that. I'm pretty comfortable with what I'm seeing through 50 games for Riddick and 19 games for Talbot. And again, we're sitting first place in the Western Conference, second place in the NHL. So not too much to worry about here. And I'm going to show you that here in the team stats here. There's not too much to worry about. So yeah, you can see, let's go by entire league. So yeah, there we are, number 2 again. Just a few points, 6 points back there, the Boston Bruins for first place in the NHL. Exactly where we projected to be. Like I said, we're coming off the year where we had a career or a good franchise year last year, in which we finished second in the NHL and at first in the Western Conference. Exactly where we're sitting now. So not much of a surprise there. We looked at this a little bit in the last episode. Goals for, goals against. You can see we sit second in the league behind the Oilers in goals for. Goals against, we sit comfortably in the top 3 there with 163. So there, and we can even look at the power play and stuff like that. Power play is in the it's in the top half. I think yeah, we're in the top half there, about 10th in the league there, 19.7, and the PK is even operating at a pretty good percentage here. Just trying to find us. We're in the top half as well in the PK. It's a little bit lower than would probably hope, but again, top 15 approximately, 83.3. Not too bad. So you can see that there's not a lot of holes. Like we're doing really well defensively. Our goaltending is getting the job done. Our defensemen are definitely getting the job done as well. Like I said, when you sit third in the NHL in goals against and second in the NHL in goals for, so we're scoring. So, I mean, you look at our record, 38, 19, and 6. We're doing a lot of good things right now. Through however many months it is. I mean, we're already very deep in the season. Like I said, end of February here. We only have the months of March and April to pretty much solidify our spot in the NHL standings. So there's not a lot we need to address now that we are actually at the trade deadline. We were monitoring it in the last episode, but now that we're actually here, there's not too much that I would probably say we would have to do. But there is, I do want to make, because like I said, we are a contending team, and it's all about like, I hope we make the playoffs. There's a pretty good chance we're going to make the playoffs, but it's all about what we do once we get to the playoffs. Like I said, we need to go for a deep run here. We absolutely have no choice. As a franchise, we have to go for a deep run, especially the way that last year ended. We need to find a way to get progress here and get a deeper run, and obviously contend for a cup. I mean, we want to win the Stanley Cup now, but we definitely want to do it in the next 3 years. So we have to start taking advantage of this. So in order to do that, I want to give us at least one piece to put us over the top. And the thing that had me in the last episode, if you did watch episode number 3, is we had a few trades proposed to us at the end of that episode. Now, the first one was Colorado. They were proposing to give us Colin Wilson, who is a third-line winger. Let's go there now. Third-line centerman, excuse me. I'm just going there as we speak. But yeah, Colin Wilson, I believe he was 80 or 81, so let's just quickly take a look at that. Where are we? Colorado. And go to skaters matching block. So yeah, they were proposing to give us Colin Wilson. I forget what the exact trade was. As you can see there, he is a third-line scoring winger. Didn't really want to do that because I don't know if he really was an upgrade over what we had on our third line. We talked about it a little bit there in the last episode. The second trade that was proposed to us was the New York Islanders. They proposed to give us Derek Brassard, and who is also a centerman and is also 82, or is 82. I guess Wilson was 80. A slightly better stats, slightly better overall. Is also second liner as opposed to the third liner that Colin Wilson was, excuse me. But again, I don't know if he's much of an upgrade over what we had. He is a slight upgrade over what we had on the third line, but don't know if he's much of an upgrade at all. And then there was the trade The final one that came to us was the Montreal Canadiens with a blockbuster trade, and I'm going backwards here as I speak, was the Montreal Canadiens proposing a blockbuster trade, and they wanted to give us this guy, Max Domi, a huge player for them. But again, look at their record quickly before we look at this: 25, 33, and 6. They're obviously possibly not making the playoffs this year, so they want to try and sell and get some pieces back. Domi, who is only 24 years of age, I probably don't know why they're trading this guy, because he still does have a few years left in his potential to grow. He is a high top 6 forward, already 86 overall, listed as a first line winger or centerman. Sorry, he's a centerman, and he has 51 points so far through 64 games. So they're listing him as a what are they listing him as here? I just want to look quickly. A playmaker. So that was interesting. Now he does play center, but and when we look at our lines, I'm going to go there now. And I'm just going to say the trade that they were proposing to us from the last episode, I screenshotted it here. It was Max Domi and a third coming from their end for 2 first-round picks in this year and next year's draft, goaltender Tyler Parsons, and left winger prospect Zagadonov, I believe his name is. So they were asking basically for a prospect, a high-end goalie prospect, and then a 2 firsts for Domi and a third. Now, when you go to our lines here, just looking at this quickly, you can see that, again, we don't have a lot of holes. So I'm just going to really quickly, we already looked at our goaltending. I'm just going to quickly show you our defense. Giordano, Brody, pretty steady. Hanifin, Hamonic, Anderson, and Valimaki with Michael Stone as our 7th defenseman. I like this. I don't want to touch it. It's getting the job done. Plus, I want to continue to grow Anderson and Valimaki. We talked about it. The long-term plan is that we probably aren't bringing back Brody and maybe not even Hamonic next year, which would mean that Anderson, Valimaki, Hanifin, and even Oliver Shillington, who's in the AHL, are going to be stepping up onto this team because we probably won't go too crazy in free agency. We don't have a lot of cap space to work with. Even once we do lose Brody and Hamonic, we're going to have probably some other players that need to be re-signed. I think Anderson is in RFA. So we got to give guys like that the money that Brody and Hamonic are making. So basically, our defensemen for next year will be Giordano, Hanifin, Valimaki, Anderson, and then Shillington, and then we'll have to fill in the final couple spots there. And so I don't want to touch this. I want to continue to grow these 2 players, obviously, down here, and these top 4 are getting it done. So really, I'm not looking at all at our defense this trade deadline. But when you look at our forwards here, Gaudreau, Monahan, Lindholm, that line's fine. They're getting the job done. Tkachuk, Backlund, Frolik, and then Mangiapane, Jankowski, Bennett, Quine, Ryan, and Lucci. And we have, who's our extra? I forgot. He's currently injured. Scratches. Sorry, that's what I meant to do. Zarnik, he's not injured. He's just not in the lineup right now. So we also have Zarnik down there. Again, our bottom 6, all high 70s, except for maybe Alan Quine at 75. Now, when I look at this, the thing that sticks out to me is obviously Michael Frolik at an 82 on the second line. Text message there. Michael Frolik on the second line, 82 overall. And the thing that when I look at this second line, what really sticks out is not the fact that Frolik's an 82, but it's Matthew Tkachuk, who, like I said, we want to get him going. So again, Tkachuk, 17 goals, 20 assists. He should be playing a lot better as, an elite. They got him elite medium, a second liner. But again, this is one of our top players behind Gaudreau and Monahan. These are our top 3. Tkachuk should be either third behind Gaudreau, Monahan, or even ahead of Monahan in points. Now, again, Monahan's having a stellar year with Gaudreau once again, but Tkachuk should be up there, is what I'm saying. Like, coming off of the year he had last year, again, 77 points. He should easily be around there each and every year now going forward. I'm not saying he has to get 77 points every year, but he should be up there. The problem is let's look at Tkachuk, who is a power forward. Let's look at who he's playing with. So he's playing with Michael Backlund, who is a second-line forward. But what do they list Backlund as? A 2-way forward, okay? And then what is Frolik listed as? A 2-way forward as well. The thing about Max Domi is, remember what he was listed at? A playmaker. I wonder if we brought Max Domi in on Tkachuk's line, if that would boost Matthew Tkachuk's goal scoring, excuse me. I was looking for the right word. If we bring a guy like that, especially a guy that's 86, put him on the same line as Tkachuk, and not even just for this year, but going forward, I don't know how comfortable we are at moving Michael Backlund off of Tkachuk's line because they've been together since day one. But imagine if it was Domi and Tkachuk going forward, and then Backlund dropped to the third spot next year. Or even this year, imagine we had Tkachuk, Backlund, and we stuck Domi on the wing where Frolik is. Either way, that looks good. Like, because I mean Domi has played wing in his career, so that is a possibility. The thing is we put Domi there, who's an 86 overall playmaker. He could feed Kachuk the puck steady, and that could be huge. We would have two elite top lines for us instead of just one elite top line and then a second line. Like, this is a really good second line, but imagine we could have two really good 1-2 punches here. So that's the interesting thing about Max Domi. Other than that, you know, I wouldn't mind adding depth to our centerman. Like, say we don't do the Domi trade, I wouldn't mind adding some depth to the middle. So there is one other player that I was looking at. I'll get him in a second here. But the one other thing I want to show you quickly is look at Andrew Mangiapane on the third line. 23 goals, and the biggest thing I want to show you about Andrew Mangiapane is look at his shooting percentage. 16.5. So I went through all of our players on our team with shooting percentage in terms of forwards, and he's actually got the second best shooting percentage behind only Johnny Gaudreau. So Johnny Gaudreau is operating at about 17 point something percent, and Mangiapane at 16 point whatever that was percentage. So Mangiapane is also listed as a sniper. So the other thing we could have done was maybe put Mangiapane up here with Furlik. Say we didn't make any moves, we could put Mangiapane up there where Furlik is, and then maybe you know, Backlund and Kachuk could feed Furlik. The only problem is, or feed Mangiapane. The only problem is I want to get Kachuk scoring as well, not just Mangiapane. He's doing really well on that third line. He probably should be up though at 23 goals. He's what I think he's second in our team in scoring. Monahan 14, Gaudreau 37. Yeah, he's second in our team in scoring behind only Johnny Gaudreau, excuse me. 17 for Kachuk and 20. Yeah, so yeah, he's second. Just looking at that. So, anyways, that's the things I noticed about a forward. So basically, when I look at this whole 12 here, I wouldn't mind adding one piece. Like I said, you don't want to change too much up here because this team is first place in the conference and second place in the league. They're doing a lot of good things. They're already second in the NHL in scoring. So really, I mean, you don't need to do too much to this lineup. We're getting the job done as of trade deadline. Now, of course, things could fall off the bus in the next month or so, and we pray it doesn't. But right now, they're getting the job done. So I wouldn't mind just adding one depth piece here, preferably a centerman that could help us with depth down the middle. So basically, and that would just bump Jankowski and Ryan down each line. So basically, if we go to the trade here, to the trade screen, there's two players I was looking at. So what I did here is I went by teams, every single team here, and I went by skaters. Again, I'm not looking at goalies because we're not looking for a goalie. So I looked at skaters they're looking to give away. I went through every single team here. So basically, the two teams I found, again, you come to, I'm just trying to think here, you come to a team like the Islanders, for example. They have lots of players here, you can see, that are high-end players. The only problem is, like, look at them. Josh Bailey, Anders Lee, Jordan Eberle. Jordan Eberle would be a perfect piece, but I'm not we don't have the salary cap space to pay Jordan Eberle $5.5 million for the next 5 years, or Anders Lee at $7 million for the next 7. Josh Bailey, same thing, $5 million for the next 5. So there's a few teams like this that have some decent players, but we just can't make it work with our salary cap situation. So the only one, and then there's like teams like San Jose that are looking to give away defensemen, but again, we're not looking at defensemen like Marc-Edouard Vlasic. So the only two teams that I saw with players are obviously the Montreal Canadiens with the Max Domi trade. That's the one I think we're going to pursue first, because the thing about this is look at Domi's salary, $3.15 for only 1 year. Now again, I'm not interested in paying Domi. Like, if we get Domi, I want to pay him or try and sign him to an extension. I want to make sure we get this guy beyond next year. I don't want to just be paying him as a rental because, you know, if we don't win the Stanley Cup this year, we want to make sure we have Domi services going into next year. Like I said, long-term plan, do you keep Domi, who's an elite playmaker in the game, with a guy like Kachuk on the second line and then bump Backlund down? That would be the long-term plan after this year. But there is some options there in terms of what we could do. So I would want to sign Domi, or trade for Domi and then sign him to an extension if we get him. The only other team with a player that I think is reasonable to get is the Minnesota Wild, and that is Eric Stahl. He plays center. He's only got 2 years left on his contract, $3.25 million, and I think he would fit in nicely as a good third-line center behind Backlund. 85 overall. Again, he's 35 years of age, but he only has 2 years left. You can see here he's having a pretty good year. 18 goals and 45 points for Eric Stahl. Had 52 points last year, 76 years. So, I mean, he can consistently put up, north of 50 points every single year. He'll obviously hit north of 50 points this year, but he's a good player. And again, only 2 years left on a pretty reasonable contract at what was it? Here we are. 3.25, sorry, for 2 years. There's Parise, but again, look at his salary, look at his years remaining. Same with Koivu, even same with Zuccarello and Zutker. These guys, all good players that we could target. But again, 5.5 for the next 4 years for Zutker, and 6 for the next 5 years for Zuccarello. The term and the money makes the most sense off Eric Stahl of anybody in the NHL other than Max Domi. So I think what we will do, and again, the trade value not too high there with Stahl, and same thing with Domi. I mean, we know we can make it work with Domi because Montreal proposed to trade. Now, I'm not interested in giving away 2 firsts. That was the only thing I had the problem with the trade from the last episode. Again, that trade was 2 first-round picks, Tyler Parsons, and then a forward prospect for Domi and a third. I was fine with that trade. I just didn't want to give away 2 firsts. I'm fine with giving away our first this year, if it means getting a player like Max Domi, but I'm not okay with giving away 2 first-round picks this early into our career. So, there's ways we can maybe rework that trade, and that's what we're going to explore right now. But again, Max Domi makes the most sense. I think 24 years of age, he fits in with our young core, 86 overall already, high top 6 potential. I mean, even if this guy just stayed at 86 for the rest of his career, that's fine. Like, put him on the second line. We're not looking to put him on the top line. We have Monahan, Gaudreau, Lindholm. We just need a guy to play with Tkachuk and play for the next how many years with Tkachuk. With all due respect to Backlund, who does get the job done and has for so many years. But to put Domi there long term, and even for this year, if we went Tkachuk, Backlund in the middle, and Domi on the right side, that would be super elite of a second line. So basically, we're going to try and explore this. So we're at the trade deadline. Let's jump right into it. Let's try and get Max frickin' Domi from the Montreal Canadiens. Like I said, they proposed this trade to us in the last episode, just a few days prior to this in our simulation, so why not try and make this work again? So we're going to obviously ask for Domi. So when we look at skaters matching block here, let's go by trade value here. So obviously, not too interested in giving away a Dylan Dubé or Oliver Shillington, our 2 top players in the American League. But look who's here. Adam Rzucka, who is a 68 overall, top 6 forward potential, medium top 6 forward potential. This is a guy I wouldn't mind giving away. Now, it does suck because he is a big centerman. Like, he is 6'4". He's a centerman. He's got top 6 forward potential. So, he is probably going to be a good player. But the thing is we've got Dylan Dubé, who's also a centerman. He's got top 6 high potential, whereas Rzucka's got top 6 medium potential, and he's already a 75, whereas Rzucka is a 68. So, it wouldn't be bad to keep both of these guys, but if we could at least keep Dubé over Rzucka, I'd prefer that. We also got guys down here like Jacob Peltre, who is a long-term plan on our team, and then we also have Phillips as well, who's a centerman as well. So, I mean, I wouldn't mind giving away Rzucka. You hate to give up these big centerman prospects, but again, he has the best trade value other than Dubé and Shillington and Peltier, and I don't want to give, and even Mangiapane, I don't want to give away any of those guys except for maybe Rzucka. So why not put Adam Rzucka into this trade here, see if we can make that work with him. Just give me a second here. All right. See if we can make a trade work with one of our top prospects going the other way. And then when we look at goalies matching the block, like I said, they wanted Tyler Parsons, also Dustin Wolf, but Tyler Parsons, who we are okay with giving up. Again, I have no problem giving up Parsons because when you look at our goaltending situation, if you missed the spiel from episode 1, we have Zagadulin, who's in the AHL. He's our best goalie prospect. We're trying to grow him. Parsons and Gillies, we just really felt that it was time to move on from both of them. We actually traded Gillies away in the very first episode, and now trading away Parsons wouldn't be a bad idea either, because we don't need 2 starting goalies in the American League. We can just grow Zagadulin, and then we'll have to just continue to draft goalies, but hope that Zagadulin can pan out. But we should get a few more years out of Riddick anyway, and then by the time he's ready to retire, however many years it is, Zagadulin should be able to come up as a legit starter. So I think we're okay in the goalie department, but you're going to honestly want to continue to draft goalies, no doubt about it. But I think we are okay with putting all of our faith in Zagadulin and moving on from Tyler Parsons, who was our 2016 draft pick there. I forget if he was in the second or third round, but he was our draft pick in 2016. So if we put our top goal, one of our top goalie prospects, one of our top offensive prospects, and then throw in a first round pick, I'm wondering if this can be enough to get it done. So let's throw in our first from this upcoming year, 2020. Again, contending team, I'm okay with putting in a first round pick. That looks pretty even to me. 2 top prospects and a first round pick for Max Domi. They want all these pieces. They want to give away Domi. They proposed this trade just days earlier. This possibly could go through. So let's try it. Let's propose this trade, and the trade has been rejected. The Montreal Canadiens can deliver what you're asking for, blah, blah, blah. This meets our block needs, quite honest, but you'll need to sweeten just a touch. So that means this trade is close. This is pretty damn close. And it does look close on the screen. Look at the bottom there at the trade value. It looks pretty close. So I wonder if we just chip in a pick now. So what do we have for this year? Second, third, 2 fifths, 6, and a 7th. What if we chip in one of the 5ths that we have here? Maybe this Minnesota Wild 5th. You know what? We'll throw in our 5th because I think Minnesota's not as good of a team, so it's not going to matter. They're pretty much the same, but what if we throw in a 5th? Would that get the job done? A 5th, a first, Parsons, Rzuska for Domi. Would that do it? And it's still rejected. They just still a little bit low for them, so the 5th might not get it done. We don't have a 4th, but we could propose a 4th next year. So we'll try that. A 4th, a first, Parsons and Rzuska. Does this get it done? And it's still a little bit low for them. So looking for a little bit of a higher pick here. This is tough. Just looking here. Do I want to give away 3rd this year or next year? If we go this year, we would just be drafting 2nd round, then 5th round twice, 6th round, 7th. Let's try giving up next year's 3rd. Because I don't want to butcher this year's draft too much. So a 3rd, a first, Parsons and Rzuska for Domi, and it's accepted. Wow, that is huge. I did not know if we were going to get Max Domi, but the Calgary Flames officially have. So that is huge. So let's go to roster moves here. Again, our backup plan was Eric Stahl if this didn't go through. But I'm just happy that it went through with Max Domi. I mean, we're bringing in an 86 overall, 24-year age player. This is huge. So we have to make a roster move here. I think maybe we have one too many players now in the NHL. So we will have to send down probably Alan Quine because he's on 2-way contract. Obviously, we can't. Zarnik and Mangiapane are on a 1-way. So I'm guessing that's what this is. We have too many players, so we'll send down Quine. You will be required. Yeah, okay. So he is waiver eligible. So send down Quine. So let's go to edit lines now. Yeah, lines must be fixed here. So wow, that is huge. Max Domi is a freaking Calgary Flame. That is massive. So let's bring Domi into our lineup here. What a huge trade for the Flames. He is listed as a centerman again, but I wonder if we can even try him on the wing, even just to start off with. So let's substitute Domi in here. There he is, Max Domi, Calgary Flame. So let's get Domi right up onto that second line. I'm wondering if we should start with this. Put for a leak there. I'm wondering if we should start with this. Tkachuk, Backlund, Domi. Again, Domi is a playmaker, so he's going to be able to feed Tkachuk and Backlund the puck. Backlund's a 2-way forward, of course, that responsible 2-way. But I wonder if Domi can be feeding Matthew Tkachuk, he's not a sniper, but he is a power forward. So I wonder if we could go with that. Look at our second line now. 86, 84, 85, and our top line 90, 90, and 86. That is in a nice top line, or top 6, sorry. Our top 2 lines looking pretty good there. And then Frolik adds a little bit of depth for us as well here on the second line. You got Jankowski there, Mangiapane. And again, long-term plan, Domi comes to the middle here, Backlund goes there, and we're suddenly a lot deeper down the middle. But right now, let's try this. And if we have to, we can move Domi there and onto the second line center and Backlund the third line center and just play around with our lines. But I like that. And then even if we do that, we can move Mangiapane up to the second line as well. So lots of options now. I like that. Lucci, Ryan, and Bennett there. And then who is our extra? Is it still Zarnik? Yeah, because we had to send down Quine. So, wow, that is cool. That is cool to see. We are suddenly looking a little bit better here. Stockton needs their lines edited. We'll just go with, I just clicked best lines there. Whoops. You know what? We'll go with best lines down here because I want them to do good. I think Stockton's doing good. I'm just going to make sure that Shillington and Dubé are getting top time, and they are. So let's go. And goalies now. The thing about this is now we go with Zagadulin. We can take the auto rotation off. completely, because now I don't want to give Schneider any games. I want to give Zagadulin all the games now that Tyler Parsons is gone. So big trade for the Calgary Flames here at the deadline. It's a blockbuster deal for the Calgary Flames. Let's just look at it one more time here, break it down really quickly. Players, picks, and trades. So there it is. Calgary acquires Max Domi for the Montreal Canadiens. The Habs in return get prospect centerman Adam Rzucka, goaltender prospect Tyler Parsons, a first-round pick in this year's upcoming draft, and a third-round pick in the 2021 NHL draft. So a couple high picks there and a couple top prospects, but it gets the job done for a young, elite first-line forward in Max Domi, who's going to be playing on our second line. So that's massive for our contending team. So I think that's the only move we really do need to make. I'm just thinking about this here. We could make small depth moves, but we really don't have a lot of salary to work with. And again, I don't want to go too crazy because we're doing pretty good right now as it stands. So we're right up against the cap anyway. Let's just look at our .288 mil left anyway. So we don't really have a lot of room to operate with there. But there's Domi here coming in at an 86, and the only thing I wouldn't mind doing now is trying to sign him to a contract extension. Hopefully we can get him signed, because if not, that's a lot to pay for a rental. But let's try and do that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go and edit our lines in terms of Domi. I want to make sure he's on every situation, like power play and everything. Obviously get him in there a lot. And then we're going to do some simming here because we still have a little bit of time here to work with. So we'll do some simming here and see how deep we can get in. But I think we're done with the trade deadline. We made one of the biggest moves, obviously. It's one of the biggest moves I've seen so far. Obviously, I expect a few more trades in the next couple days leading up to the deadline, as we're only on the 23rd, so there should be a few more blockbuster moves, but that is one of the biggest moves in the NHL, or biggest trades, and it involved us and the Montreal Canadiens. So give me a few seconds here. I'm just going to go and edit our lines, get Domi in. I'm also going to look at the AHL situation, just make sure that all the players that should be in there are playing, but yet that they have a chance to win. So give me a few seconds here. All right, and we are back. So I went in there and I edited our lines. I got Max Domi into pretty much all the situations we want him to be in here. So I'll just show you our lines quickly, and then I also went into the AHL as well. So these obviously stay the same. Like I said, we're going to start Max Domi here on the second line with Michael Backlund and Matthew Tkachuk. Obviously Domi, like I said, being a playmaker, can feed Tkachuk and Backlund the puck there. And then we got Mangiapane, who could come up onto that second line too if we need to switch things around there with Jankowski, Frelick, Bennett, Ryan, and Lucci. So that rounds up our forward lines. Like I said, I didn't even touch the defense. That stays the same. But just going ahead and editing like the power plays and stuff. I was looking at our power play again. We're about a top 10 in the power play in the NHL, and we're in the top half. Probably about the top 15 when it comes to the PK. So I did a little bit of tweaking because, you know what, for a team that is second in the NHL in standings and second in goals for, we probably should be a little bit better on the power play and then, of course, the PK as well. So I went in and we're going to leave this top unit intact for now. I think they're getting the job done as the top unit. I like the left shot of Johnny Gaudreau here, the right shot of Elias Lindholm on this side. I think they're playing well there. And then having Tkachuk on the point. What we did do is put Max Domi in here on the power play with the second unit. We took out Sam Bennett. Keep, obviously, Andrew Mangiapane, who's having an incredible year. Like I said, second highest shooting percentage on the team behind Johnny Gaudreau. We'll keep him on one flank of Michael Backlund. Domi now on the other flank. And then we also put in Rasmus Andersson. I think Noah Hannafin was in there. Get some Rasmus Andersson in there. Get his shot in there, get him some more ice time as well. And then, of course, like I said, I just went and put Domi in a lot of these situations. You'll see now that a lot of our 4-on-4 situations will now be Monahan, Gaudreau as a pairing, and even Domi and Tkachuk now instead of Backlund and Tkachuk. We'll still have Backlund in there in a lot of defensive roles here, like the PK, but we're getting Domi in there. You can see Domi also on our PK. So, like I said, with the PK, I switched things up here a little bit. I think we had Jankowski in here on the top unit with somebody, might have been Frelick or something. I bumped Frelick to the second unit, got Monahan in there as well, Backlund, Domi, and then even switched up the defense a little bit just to change things up because, like I said, we are in the top half of the PK for the league, but we probably want to be a little bit higher. The 3-on-3 stays the same, and then when we got to extras here, just putting in, again, Domi in a lot of situations here. This one I left Backlund, Kachuk, but Domi's in there with Lindholm. And then 3-on-3, Domi's in there as well as I put Anderson up there ahead of Hanifin. So really small moves, just a lot of small moves right now. Domi's in there in the shootout as well. But like I said, just to get Domi in there. Like I said, we're trying to get Matthew Kachuk going, get him going a little bit more. If we can get Domi in there with Kachuk now that Domi is a playmaker for Kachuk. And then just some minor moves like a guy like Rasmus Anderson seeing a little bit of an increase in ice time. There's your scratches, Austin Zarnik and Michael Stone. That's what it looks like in the NHL. I just quickly want to show you the AHL because, like I said, I did want to spend some time in here in the American League, see if we can get this team going a little bit. Alan Quine up there. Obviously, we had to send him down, so he's up there on the top line with Dylan Dubé, who's continuing to be our top prospect down there, playing on a line with Buddy Robertson. That's actually not a bad line for the AHL, 75, 75, 73. Some all players in the 70s there. We got Godwin, who's another prospect for us. So now that we did trade Adam Rajewska, we now have about 3 good centermen here that we're growing in the American League, plus some prospects still coming up. But Dylan Dubé, obviously our best player down the middle. Glenn Godin, who's also a centerman. I believe Godin's got top 9 forward potential, and then we even have Matthew Phillips still in here, top 6 forward potential, low potential, and he's only a 69, but time to grow there for Matthew Phillips. But yeah, you can see even in the AHL was continuing to grow down the middle, even though we traded away Adam Rajewska, and I think even Linus Lindstrom here is a centerman, bottom 6 forward potential. So I think we're still good in terms of our center depth in our prospect pool. That's why I think we could afford to trade away Rajewska there, as we do have some depth down there. Got a guy like Itutola in there as well, and Philip Sevikson, get them into some games as well. But just try to improve our AHL team all around. Oliver Shillington still in a lot of situations there in the back end with Brandon Davidson. And then I just went ahead and made sure that was the case. Artem Zagadulin is in there now. I forgot to take off goalie rotation, so I'll do that here in a second. But let's get Zagadulin in there and get him going now that Tyler Parsons is no longer a member of our team. Zagadulin can get all the starts here. You can see there is his... There is his record so far this season. Just looking at it there, 11, 13, and 1, a 914 save percentage there for Artem Zagadulin in 26 games. So just wanted to do that quickly. Obviously, get going there with the lineup situation. There's just a quick look at the Stockton Heat because, like I said, we haven't paid too much attention to them this season. But you can see there they sit 4th in their division. So I believe they're still fighting for a playoff spot there. 59 points, not too far back of the Condors and the Eagles and Gulls up there at the top of the division. So. Wouldn't mind seeing maybe the Stockton Heat with a bit of a playoff run. So let's get back to our NHL team though, and I think what we're going to do here is we're going to simulate the rest of this month, and we're going to keep this video a little shorter, and then we'll start off the month of March and April for the next video, which will get us obviously right up to playoffs. Again, there's our situation. First place in the Western Conference, second place in the NHL with 82 points. We only trail the Boston Bruins, who have 88 points in the NHL. You can see even in that last video, we didn't talk about it in this video because we've been focused on the trade deadline, but in that last video we did win some very key games against the Edmonton Oilers, as well as just some key games in general that gave us a little bit of separation. You can see there the Oilers down at 76 points. At one point they were pretty much neck and neck with us there. In fact, they were even ahead of us quite a bit there in the last episode, in episode number 3. We do still, they still have a game in hand on us, but you can see we have separated ourselves just a little bit from them there with 82 points. Anaheim's also tied with Edmonton at 76. There's the Golden Knights back there at 74. You can see the Pacific owns both wild card spots there, the Coyotes and the Golden Knights. The Central, a slightly weaker division, but still lots of hockey to be played. Like I said, we have the whole month of March and April. Now, before we get into the simming, there's one last thing I looked at when I was editing the lines. A little bit of caught me off guard a little bit. I was a little bit surprised. It's something we need to look at going forward to make sure we are always checking this. So we went and got Max Domi, and when we made the trade and leading up to the trade, the biggest thing I was saying is I want to get Domi extended because he is his contract's obviously up after this year. So I didn't want to trade away the pieces that we did there for Domi to get nothing back for him. So I went to our contract situation, to go figure out what we should do here with Max Domi, if we can offer an extension. And then I was caught off guard to see this. Domi is making 8.34 for the next 2 years after next year. And then he is a UFA. So I was like, what on earth is going on? Because basically, when we traded for Max Domi, it said that his contract was up after this year. Let's go to his contract situation here. So yeah, 1 year remaining, 3.15 million for 1 year. Now, it does not say anywhere that he is extended, does it? Pending availability signed. Contract, yeah. So I don't see anything here that says he is extended. So what I was under the impression is that his contract is up after this year. So I looked at Domi's real life situation, and he is a RFA after this year. He does not. The Montreal Canadiens did not give an extension in real life, which means in this game, while we were simming, the Montreal Canadiens decided to give Max Domi a new extension, a 2-year extension worth 8.34 for the next 2 years, and then they decided to put him on the trading block. So first of all, that's a really weird situation. That's something that would only happen in a video game. Obviously, if you were planning on extending this player and committing to this player for the next 2 years as a franchise piece in Montreal, you probably wouldn't have traded him at the trade deadline, even though your team is not doing so well. It was kind of surprising in the first place, because Domi is only 24 years of age. If the Habs missed the playoffs this year, I don't think they would have, they would have traded Domi away just because they missed the playoffs. He's still a future piece for them, but nevertheless they did. So that was a little bit odd to begin with. But then the fact that they did sign him to a 2-year extension in this game, and not in real life, but in this game, and then they still went away and traded him. So that's a little bit unrealistic in my opinion. But anyways, the fact of the matter is that they did they did sign him to a 2-year extension at 8.34. And so we obviously don't have to worry about extending him for the next 2 years. The only problem is now we didn't get to control that contract. So I wanted to put him under a contract that was more team friendly for the Calgary Flames, not for the Montreal Canadiens, because obviously in Montreal maybe they didn't have as much salary to work with, so they were okay giving him 8.34. I wanted to obviously give him our own contract instead of the other team giving him a contract. Also, I wanted to control the fact that he was an RFA versus a UFA. We had his rights there. Now we obviously don't have his rights that he's on a 2-year extension. You can see he's a UFA there after 2 years. Now, he does fit into that window nicely with our other top players. Like I said, Gaudreau's contract's up in 2 years. After this year, Giordano's contract's up in 2 years after this year. Matthew Tkachuk is an RFA in 2 years after this year, and then Sean Monahan has 1 extra year after those guys. So he still fits into our window nicely. And you know what? I'm not going to complain too much. I don't mind that contract. 2 years is not a long term. It's a perfect term to see exactly what Domi can be on this team. First of all, we're going to be able to see what he is for the rest of this season. So he's got about a month and a half plus playoffs to show us what he can do, and then he's got two more full seasons, and after that then we can really determine what Domi is going to be for this franchise going forward. So I like the term, and the money's actually not too bad. Now, obviously, the cap situation in real life is going to go up every single year. So if this was a real life contract, 8.34. I mean, Domi now becomes our highest paid player on the team next year. Starting next year at 8.34, he'll be ahead of obviously Matthew Tkachuk. But 8.34 is not bad. That's not a bad for a top end player. Again, Domi is a guy that's put up close to 50 points already this season in 64 games. He has 51 points in 64 games. He is now going to be playing on a top line with one of our top lines with Tkachuk and Backlund, so he can probably expect to be putting up those numbers each and every single year. So if he's a guy that's north of 60 points every season for us on our second line, I'm okay paying him that. Plus the fact that the long-term plan is that we could probably put him, like I said, at center with Tkachuk, so he's going to play a really vital role down the middle for us as well. He's going to be in a lot of situations, PK, PP. A lot of situations there for us. So I'm okay with paying him 8.34. I think he definitely deserves it. And with the cap going up, that could be a steal for us. Now, in this game, I don't know how much the cap's going to go up in this game. In real life, it will go up. The thing that this game will struggle the most about compared to real life is the American TV contract that's coming up in 2 or 3 years there with NBC. In in real life, that's expected to heavily increase the cap situation and increase the revenue for the league with the new American TV deal coming in. I'm not going to dive into it too much because I'm not a super big expert on American media, but hopefully ESPN does get the rights back. I enjoy ESPN a lot more than I do NBC. I think ESPN is a much better American network. I think with them being owned by Disney versus NBC being owned by Comcast, I think they would draw in a lot more revenue. I think ESPN is just generally a bigger company. Again, I think Disney obviously is a bigger company now that they own ESPN. Or I guess they always have owned ESPN, but now that they have acquired a lot of other media outlets, they're one of the biggest media or one of the biggest companies in the world. Period. Next Comcast, obviously. So again, I'm not a big expert in all that. I don't know how it shakes down, but hopefully I liked ESPN to begin with. Hopefully they get the rights back, and that should heavily boost the cap in the NHL. Now, like I said, that does not affect the game here because that won't happen in this game. So we don't really have to worry about it. That's just something I thought I'd bring up. But anyways, let's get moving on. Like I said, I want to finish up this month here in this episode, and then we will start the new episode with this game against the Columbus Blue Jackets in the month of March. And then just quick look here at the month of March. There is the game against Columbus. You can see it's a pretty heavy month. The month of March always is. So we'll have lots of games there. And then we just got the first week into April here. So in fact, we only got is it only 2 games in April this year? Vegas and Edmonton, and yeah, that's it. So actually, there's not a lot of games remaining. All the games remaining is on this screen. You can see our last game is on the 4th against the Edmonton Oilers. That could be a battle for first place in our division, but hopefully it doesn't come down to that. Hopefully we can have a really solid month here in March with the acquisition of Max Domi, and really solidify our spot amongst the tops of our division. So let's do this Boston game, Nashville, Tampa, and Florida, and then we'll stop right here. But let's get up to the trade deadline. Like I said, we've already done our trade deadline there. So we'll just see what some of the other teams around the NHL are doing here. So the trade deadline's yeah, okay. We don't have to worry about that because we've already done our trade deadline. So there is the deadline. Here's the game against Boston. So it looks like the deadline is over now. Was there any other moves? I didn't see anything else come up on the screen. Let's just take a quick look here because I was expecting some other big trades to happen. Like I said, ours is probably going to be one of the biggest trades, but let's just see what else went down. So yeah, there's us. The only other trade after our trade was a small trade there with the Golden Knights and the Jets. Neil Pionk and a third goes to Vegas for a couple draft picks there, and Cody Eakin. So small, not as big of a trade as probably you would have expected. There were some bigger trades that were done before us. Just quickly looking here, Mike Green, Dion Phaneuf going to Winnipeg. Winnipeg being a contender as well. So they get that from Detroit. They gave up first-round pick Matthew Perreault. Just scanning through here, a bit of a trade going down there between the Kings and the Flyers. Tyler Toffoli goes to the Predators with Derek Forbett and Dennis Seidenberg. The Kings look like they get some draft picks back, as well as center Nick Bonino. Joe Thornton going to the St. Louis Blues, so Jumbo Joe out of San Jose. San Jose looking to rebuild. They get a bunch of draft picks back, as well as they also ship out a player to Vancouver. Some other trades going down there. Nazem Kadri and Matt Calvert went to Chicago from the Avalanche. I think that's an old one. We already looked at that. Yeah. So so just some look there at some of the trades. I thought there'd be more, to be honest. I thought there would be, but we probably still have the biggest blockbuster trade of the deadline. So let's do this game quickly here against Boston. Like I said, finish up these games, and then we'll end this episode here. So first game for Max Domi as a Calgary Flame. Let's see what he can offer for us in his very first game. So Flames in Boston. First period, here we go, and it is 1-0 Flames. Johnny Gaudreau gets the first goal of the hockey game, beating Tuukka Rask. 1-0 Flames. Second period, they get 3 goals. Danton Heinen and Brad Marchand. David Pastrnak beating David Riddick with all 3 goals there in the second period. Can we come back in the third period? Come on, Flames. We do get a goal from Michael Backlund, but they add 2 more. Patrice Bergeron, Kevin Bailey. Boston, don't forget, is the top team in the NHL. They're the only team ahead of us, so not surprised there. This is probably a good measuring stick game for us to see how we stack up against the other elite team in the NHL, but not a big surprise there that the Boston Bruins beat us. They are a really good, solid team all around. I didn't really look at their lines, but that's something maybe we can do heading into playoffs, especially if they do finish first. So just looking here at our players, let's go to Max Domi. He plays 9 19 minutes, 55 seconds. Doesn't finish with a point in this one, but he stays neutral. Somebody in the minus is there. Andrew Mangiapane, sorry, Mark Jankowski, Michael Frolik. That line struggling big time, as well as Hamonic and Hamonic and Hanifin as a pairing. So they struggle. That line does. And the goalie situation there, 8-5-3. So not the best night for David Riddick, but again, top team in the NHL there. Looks like they just took advantage of one of our lines there. But let's just continue to move on. Here, like I said, we got a couple of games here, and then we'll end this episode. So the Flames are still sitting first place in the Pacific. Let's get this game against Nashville. We won't change anything. We'll keep Riddick in because I just want to look here. We got a back-to-back coming up against Tampa and Florida, so Talbot will get one of those games. But let's keep Riddick in for this one. Or I forgot to look at the goaltending, but I forgot to take auto rotation off, so they might have Talbot in, but we'll see what the case is here. So first period, Flames and Preds, it looks like Riddick is in. They get one from Austin Watson. We get one from Matthew Tkachuk. So there's Tkachuk. Hopefully Domi set that one up. And Bennett, that is the first period. Second period. Oh my God, they add two more. Yankoro and the newest member of the Nashville Predators, Tyler Toffoli. Looks like that's his first goal as a Predator. So they get a 3-2 lead after 40. Can we please respond in the third period? Come on, Flames. Yes, we do. That is a huge third period by the Calgary Flames. A comeback win, and it's our two superstars, Johnny Gaudreau and Sean Monahan, scoring for us. Gaudreau getting a shorthanded goal there, beating Pekka Rinne. Big come-from-behind win for the Calgary Flames to steal this one. So that is what you obviously want to see. Looking here, 2-point night there for Gaudreau, Backlund, Monahan. Max Domi recording his first point in this one. 19 minutes, 6 seconds of ice time, gets an assist, so likely setting up that Matthew Tkachuk goal. That's exactly what we brought him in to do, is to set up some goals there. Doesn't get a shot in this one, but does get a big assist, setting up Matthew Tkachuk. That's the whole reason we brought him in. 9-1-7 for David Riddick. Another good night for Riddick's there. So a big come-from-behind win for the Calgary Flames. And now we got the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Florida Panthers. So let's finish up these couple games, and then, like I said, we will start episode 5 with the month of March. Excuse me. All right, so just want to make sure Riddick stays in for this one, because, like I said, I forgot to take auto rotation off. I'll make sure to do that by the next episode. Like I said, no reason to keep that on now that we traded away Tyler Parsons in the American League. So Tampa Bay, just looking here at their situation. They are here sitting 4th place, so they are clinging to a wild card spot, 72 points there. So they're fighting for their playoff lives here. Tampa Bay really probably should be a lot closer to where we are and where Boston is atop the NHL. Probably a bit of a surprise for them this season that they are down there and not doing as good as they did last year, coming off that incredible season. So they're barely fighting to make the playoffs this year. So they're probably going to be desperate in this one, but we got to be just as desperate. We need these points now that we're in the grind of the season. So Flames, Lightning from Tampa Bay, Florida. First period, nothing there. Second period, we get 2, they get 1. Yanni Gourde scores, and then Matthew Tkachuk with another goal, back-to-back games for Tkachuk, Jankowski as well. And third period, come on Flames, we do hang on. They get 1 from Steven Stamkos, but Jankowski with his second of the game. Big night by Mark Jankowski. That's what you want to see on the third line. And the Calgary Flames prevailed to a 3-2 win, from St. Petersburg. A big win there for the Flames. So let's just take a quick look here. Just looking, Jankowski with a big night, 2 points there for him. Domi, another assist. So he, again, probably setting up that Tkachuk goal once again. This time Domi does get 2 shots on goal. 21 minutes and 3 seconds is the most ice time he's had out of the 3 games he's played so far, and through 3 games he has 2 assists. So again, probably setting up both of those Tkachuk goals, and that's exactly what we brought him in to do. So now we got the Florida Panthers. So let's get up to this game against Florida. It's back-to-back nights. We'll get Talbot in there for a game. I just want to see where Florida sits now. They sit second in their division. They're not too far back of Boston, who Boston's now, of course, at 92, but you can see Florida there, 85. So Florida is probably where the Tampa Bay Lightning should have been, and Tampa Bay is probably where Florida should have been. So probably expected different situations for both of those teams. I could have seen Florida just fighting for a playoff spot, whereas I could have seen Tampa second in their division behind Boston. But again, it is what it is. It's EA Sports. So try to get our 3rd win here in a row and finish this month strong for the Calgary Flames. Panthers, Flames, each team with 40 wins already on the season. First period, and there is a goal, and it's Jonathan Huberdeau beating Cam Talbot. who comes in on back-to-back nights. 1-0 Panthers, second period. Nothing. Do we have anything for us in the third period? Come on, Flames. We do get one from Tkachuk, but Barkov gets the game winner. They get the 2 points in this one, and we drop a back-to-back decision to the Florida Panthers. Back-to-back game story, I should say, in the state of Florida. I was going to say province. Just looking here, does Max Domi pick up another point? He does not in this one. Domi does not pick a point. In fact, Domi goes -1 for the first time in this one in his tenure with the Flames. 19:05 for ice time. Tkachuk does score, but it looks like Goudreau and Lindholm get the assist, so it was probably a power play goal then for Matthew Tkachuk. 9:35 for Cam Talbot. Not a bad night for Cam Talbot. Just obviously we didn't get enough offense from our team, but that's all right. Let's see if we can just finish off, or you know what, that is our last game. So that is the last game. So let's sim up to this Columbus game. Vancouver's placing Oscar Fantenberg, the former Flame, on waivers. Would you like to claim him? You know what? I will. He's in the American League. He's with Utica, the Utica Comets there in the American League. When we were looking at our AHL team, we could always use some improvement there. Maybe this will be like our trade deadline acquisition in the AHL to try and help that team fight for the playoffs. So let's do it. Let's. He's a 70. What is he? I don't know what his overall is, but let's claim him. He's probably a top AHL defenseman. And like I said, he was in the Flame system last year, so let's get him in there with our American League. Let's just go here to edit lines. Let's go to the American League. Let's take out this guy down here, Leslie, and let's bring in Oscar Fantenberg, 77 overall. Yeah, so you can see he's going to be a huge improvement. Already, he becomes our top defenseman with Oliver Shillington, excuse me, both of them 77, and then we got Brandon Davison that can bump down here. So that's huge to put Oscar Fantenberg, and that gives that line or that pairing a +3 chemistry rating too. So as you can see, he's coming off an injury. That's probably why the Canucks maybe sent him down, or we're trying to call him up, one of the two. So that's okay. We'll claim him. We'll take him away from our arch rivals in Vancouver. The Heat now sitting at 3rd place in their division there in the American League. So let's see if we can get them into the playoffs with the acquisition of Oscar Fantenberg. So we will end this episode here. It was a very big trade deadline for the Calgary Flames as we went and got one of the biggest pieces at the deadline, that being Max Domi. He came in, he put up, 3 assists in 4 games there, I think it was, something like that. Setting up Matthew Tkachuk. He's looked pretty good on that second unit so far. It's a really short sample size, but we'll really see what we got out of Max Domi in the next episode and going forward. Either way, he's a huge piece, not just for our team this year, but for our team going forward. Fits into our age category at 24 years of age. Fits into our 2-year window with 2 more years remaining at 8.34, and he's just going to be at 86 overall. He's just going to be a huge add for us there on the second line and on our top 6. So we will end this episode here. Very happy with our acquisition there at the deadline. Very happy with where we sit. You can see 86 points there. We sit comfortably 1st place in our division. Or I guess not too comfortably, because there's the Oilers just 4 points back now at 82. But it is going to be a very big month of March and April to get us back to the Stanley Cup playoffs and being a legit contender. So that will do it for episode 4, and we will finish the rest of the regular season and get to the beginning of the playoffs in episode 5.